Greetings, everyone. Thanks for tuning in to this, the first episode of Season 5 for Topic UFO. I can't believe we've made it to the 5th season, but luckily we have. And tonight, we are going to be joining back up with one of our original guests. For those of you that have been watching the show for some time, you may remember back in Season 1, back in June of 2012, we did an episode on the Blue Springs, Missouri UFO flap. And we visited with Miss Margie K, who is the Assistant Director for MUFON, there for the state of Missouri. And it appears that Missouri, once again, is having a large amount of UFO activity. So I reached out to Margie, and she was nice enough to agree to come back and talk to us again. From what I understand, she's got some stories for us, so this ought to be good. The Blue Springs, Missouri UFO flap was just unbelievable. They had the local news came out, CBS affiliate came out with a cameraman and a reporter, and did a short segment with the neighborhood people, and they were able to actually catch the object on camera, on tape. And they even went as far as stating so on the news, which is unheard of. And it all came to a crushing stop. We don't know why. But all of a sudden, the reporter just said, this is no longer a pertinent story. We will no longer be covering it. No explanation, no reason, just stopped. So maybe Margie will know a little bit more about that. So we'll ask her. The activity out there in Kansas City area just appears to never have stopped. It just keeps going. I don't know why. I don't know why that area of the United States has so much activity for so long of periods of time. So maybe Margie can provide answers to that. Before we bring Margie on, I wanted to play you a little clip. This clip is actually from August of 2012. So just after we did our original episode with Margie, she did this interview with Channel 41 out there regarding a pilot seeing a UFO. So take a look at that, and we'll talk to Margie right afterwards, okay? Go ahead and roll that tape, would you? Watch this.
Well, extraterrestrial life, it's a long debated argument, and it's renewed with the possible sighting over Kansas City.
Now, last night we told you about the man claiming to be a commercial pilot flying into KCI who said a UFO was trailing his plane Monday night. Today, Zach Tecklenburg spoke with the woman who took his report.
They're words that give you goosebumps and make your hair stand on end. UFO investigator Margie K heard them firsthand.
He said they got a clear view of it, and it was a disc-shaped silver color with a low flat dome on top of it.
K works with MUFON, the Mutual UFO Network.
As he slowed for approach, slowed for landing, the object also slowed, and it stayed with them for approximately 20 minutes.
With 30 years in paranormal investigations, Kay says even she is impressed by this possible sighting, especially since it comes from a man claiming to be a pilot. A credible professional witness, she says, but she could tell he was nervous over the phone.
This fear that he did not want, he didn't want his personal information out, but he wanted the public to know that this is a real event.
Kay says that's common when pilots give her a call.
They all tell me the same thing, that there's a stigma attached to it, that if they file an official report or if they go public with it, they're probably going to lose their jobs.
In this case, Kay says she now has a second witness that's come forward.
She just said she was on the ground, she was outside at the same time, and that she viewed several unexplained lights in the sky.
She says that adds more credibility to an amazing story.
There are always skeptics, which is a good thing because we want to approach it from a skeptical point of view.
Kay hopes more evidence will silence the naysayers. Margie K just emailed me this afternoon and told me that they have one more witness that has come forward. Now, one possible explanation for this all, it could be a drone aircraft, but I talked with the spokesperson at Whiteman Air Force Base this afternoon who said the base does not fly unmanned aerial vehicles in Kansas City area airspace. You can read the full report and watch our previous coverage by clicking on this story at kshb.com. In the newsroom, Zach Tecklenburg, 41 Action News.
Oh, wow. What do you think? We asked you on kshb.com today if you believe in extraterrestrials. At this point, when we weighed in and got the results, it was 76% of you saying, yes, we believe. And those of you, 23% saying you don't. You can still weigh in and vote. Just go to our homepage, KSHB.
Welcome back, everyone. At this time, I'd like to go ahead and introduce our guest for the evening, Miss Margie Kay, Assistant State Director for Missouri MUFON. Margie, are you out there, ma'am?
Oh, I'm doing great. How are you doing?
We're doing great over here. Thanks so much for taking time out of your busy day. I just cannot believe the amount of activity that goes on over there in your neck of the woods. Margie, my first question to you is, do you have any ideas, any thoughts as to why your area of the United States seems to have so much UFO activity?
Well, Rick, that's a big question. And of course, naturally, myself and all the other investigators involved are wondering the same things. And we're looking at every possible angle. We've looked at geology, where military bases are, where water is, you name it, we've dug into it. And so far, there's only one place in the greater Kansas City area that things really seem to center around. And I've just recently come up with this hypothesis, which it still is, but it seems to be focused around the Lake City Army Ammo Plant, which is east of Kansas City and then go through Independence far east. It's a large, like 39,000 acres out there. Lake City is huge. They have many buildings, many structures, and it is highly guarded. I mean, we're talking about a big fence with razor wire around it and guard shacks. And there's a lot of ammunition that's stored there. It's stored underground. And this is just a focal point where people are seeing strange things. Not only UFOs back as far as 1969, but orbs and lights and other craft that seem to come from that area and go into that area.
Well, I know when you were here the last time, which, like I said, was back in June of 2012 with the Blue Springs activity, I believe at that time you had mentioned this Army location as well. And I believe they've got like some underground bunkers and stuff as well there.
They do. They've got miles of underground bunkers and underground storage for all kinds of different types of ammunition. And who knows what else goes on there, but, the public will never know.
Yeah, exactly. So Margie, I was listening to Coast AM a couple of weeks ago. Our friend Roger Marsh was on there. Giving a UFO traffic report, I think they called it. But he mentioned a case there in Missouri. And I just thought to myself, my God, is this place still experiencing activity? And, of course, your name came to mind. I said, I got to call Margie and see what's going on out there. So what is going on out there, Margie?
Well, Rick, it's actually been pretty crazy, as you know, since the flap in October of 2011, when we had the most UFO sightings anywhere in the world. Missouri, in the whole state, has stayed on top in the top 3 or 4 in the United States monthly since then. Wow. And we have these little waves where we have, things will slow down. We think they're slowing down, and then the next month they peak up again. Well, what's happening right now is things have shifted a bit. We've gone from craft sightings all over the state to now balls of light. And that's the primary focus. Of course, we still have the craft, but there's just balls of light all over. The other thing is close encounters with large craft, and this is what the Joplin case is about. And I'll just give you the background on that. July 8th, a commercial airline pilot was walking his dog. It's 9:15 in the evening at dusk, and he sees a UFO, and it's in the distance, far away. It has orange lights on it. He knows that's not normal. And as it gets closer, it gets bigger and bigger and bigger. And he sees it has multiple lights. Well, right at that time that it's finally to getting to over his house, and this lasted several minutes now, another gentleman comes around the corner with his wife in their Jeep. And he is an ex-police officer, and he flies privately. He's a pilot. He also works for the Joplin Globe Democrat newspaper. Well, the first gentleman flagged him down. The husband and wife get out of the car. They see the UFO as well. By that time, it is about 100 to 300 feet above their heads. Wow. And it's an acre wide and an acre long, with multiple lights underneath it. No sound whatsoever. These two gentlemen are pilots. They're trying to figure out, how is this object staying in the air? They can't see or hear any type of engines, any propulsion system whatsoever. And it's just silently flying, very, very, very slowly. The first gentleman runs in the house to wake his wife up and get her out and get his camera, while the other two watch this object continue going down closer and closer to the earth. And it started at a high altitude and ended up at a very low altitude, went down behind trees, and they thought it landed. So the three of them, he came back outside, it's gone. He didn't get a picture. The three of them jumped in the Jeep and chased it where they thought that it might have landed. They know the area. And this was a cow pasture, so they pulled to the side of the road next to the cow pasture, and they shone a 1,000,000 candle power flashlight out into the pasture, but the light beam quit working. They could see the light coming out, but there was no beam. And at the same time, the car warning system went on as if a car door was open, so it was beeping and beeping, and there was no car door open. And then he couldn't get the car into drive for about 5 minutes. So they're kind of panicked. They know something's going on. It's a highly strange experience. He finally gets the car into drive, and it's a brand new Jeep, by the way. They move on down the road, and then they don't see anything. The flashlight starts working again. The beeping goes off. Car's driving normally. They get back to the original spot. Everything starts again. There's no beam on the flashlight, and the car starts beeping again. So I went down there a few days later with another investigator, Larry Jordan. He and I interviewed the witnesses separately. We had them make drawings. The object is a very, very strange shape. It has strange things on it. Now, I'm only releasing to the public part of what this thing looks like, because the rest of it is so unique that what I'm doing is, I sent a couple of press releases out. I'm waiting for other people to come forward who may have seen the same object.
Right.
So basically what it was a teardrop shape with a point facing forward, multiple lights underneath it, orange lights, blue lights, and yellow and red, illuminating the entire underneath, but no other part of it. And it was, like I said, it was gigantic. It was an acre, wide and an acre long.
How many feet? How many feet is that? Just
what is an acre? I can't even remember.
I can't remember.
it's a lot. It's big.
It's huge.
I mean, we're standing in this guy's yard, and he's showing me his yard, and they're saying, first they said it was as big as a house, but no, it was as big as a yard. The way they're describing it. So we go back to the house, and I'm interviewing the primary witness who actually phoned this in, the ex-police officer, and he shows me a burn on his arm, which is a really bad burn and very large.
Wow.
It had blisters on it. This was a few days later after the event. He was also very ill. He was obviously ill at the time. He was sweating. He looked hot. He looked pale. He did not look good at all. Well, he stayed very sick for 3 weeks. And finally now he's better, thank goodness, because the first thing we thought was radiation. Well, if it had been radiation, he probably would not be out of the hospital because of that. I've talked to some people who told me the radiation symptoms, and for him to be that sick and not be very ill or worse is unusual. So we've determined that can't be it. But he did see a physician, and the physician cannot explain his illness. He did not have a virus, and he also cannot explain the burn. The physician has said that it looks like a laser burn.
I was just going to say maybe some type of infrared burn or something like that, but laser,
right.
Huh?
Right. So between that and also the physical evidence that we got, actually electronic evidence, I ran a K2 meter, which measures electromagnetic field, over the entire vehicle. And the only place where I got a high reading was, strangely, the canvas top of the vehicle. So something occurred to the vehicle to make it maintain this high EMF reading several days even after the event. Now, since then, I posted press releases. The Joplin Globe, who this gentleman works for, refused to put a story up. They did not want to have the publicity about one of their own people seeing something like this. He has since then decided to go public, and he does not care what the circumstances are because he wants answers.
That's great.
Oh, yeah, it really is. And so since then, I've had 5 more reports from people who were nearby, who saw similar things. One sounds exactly like this craft within a mile of this site where this other people have had these things occur. And this has been since July 8th until now.
Now, this July 8th, 2014.
Yes, until the last few days. So we have 6 sightings of this craft in the last 30 days. Longer than that. So one of them, and I'll just mention this one real quick. What happened on July 27th? A woman is driving her 12-year-old son and his 12-year-old friend back from soccer practice. She was driving south on Range Line Road in Joplin, a half a mile away from this location we're talking about. All of a sudden, it feels to them like their car has been hit by another car. It's a loud boom, the car shook, and they all wondered what happened. She pulled to the side of the road, and there was no car there and no damage to her vehicle. But at the same time that happened, they heard a strange sound come through the radio, and all the dash lights went out. Then everything came back on, but it all went back to factory presets. None of her saved stations were on her radio anymore. They drop off the one little boy at his house, and while they're there, they see a strange-looking, very large owl in a power line, or standing on a power line, watching them. And she said the owl did not look real. It looked fake to her. Well, I don't know if she knows this, but as you know, in UFO investigations, we often find that witnesses see owls, and we believe that they're ETs that are cloaking themselves to look like an owl.
Beware the smiling owl, I believe I've heard someplace.
Yeah, and I have had other witnesses see the same thing. They say they see a 3-foot owl, and I'm like, no, you didn't. But But yeah, that is just very strange, and for it to be going on for such a long time in the same area with, and especially such a large craft, and so close.
Well, I mean, Margie, like you say, this original flap started back in October of 2011. Mm-hmm. I talked to you for the first time in June of 2012. We're sitting here now at the beginning of September 2014, and it sounds to me like the flap never really stopped, did it?
No, it hasn't, and that's why Missouri was featured in the Hangar One episode, "Hot Spots in the United States." Mm-hmm. We're one of the biggest, and it's all over the state, but most of it is in the Kansas City area, mostly in eastern Jackson County around Independence, Lee Summit, Blue Springs area, and once again, Lake City is in that area. Now, you've got to remember, too, that we're only 50 miles away from Whiteman Air Force Base. Mm-hmm. So the B-2 flies overhead on occasion. We know what it looks like. It is not silent. And, anybody would really recognize it if it's lit up. If it's in stealth mode, we may not see it. But other than that, we just really don't have an explanation for it.
Well, if this thing was, quote unquote, government owned or government created, would they use these strange combination colored lights, orange, blue, yellow, red? It just seems to me like they wouldn't use those colors. It just doesn't make sense.
No. Obviously it's not a conventional aircraft. There's no navigation lights on it, for one thing. No wings or tail. Just this big black shape, hanging in the air.
It shouldn't fly. Theoretically, it shouldn't fly.
Shouldn't be there. Now, I will say this. I can't tell you if it's one of ours or something from somewhere else. Right. All I can say is it's unexplained because nobody knows what this is, unless, of course, we've got some secret technology, which is highly possible. Mm-hmm. But why they have it lit up like that for everybody to see, I don't know.
Right. And flying it over populated area, very strange.
Well, one of the witnesses had a theory that it was crash landing, or that it was, had some type of problem and needed to land. So, that's a possibility. But why they needed to have all those lights on, I don't know.
Well, you couldn't ask for two better witnesses, I guess. A pilot and an ex-police officer / newspaper writer.
Right, and he's a pilot himself.
Oh, and he's also a pilot, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And then his wife is there. She's a healthcare professional. The three of them are extremely credible. Even though there's no film, they drew me pictures. I interviewed them separately. They told me the exact same story. I believe them. This happened.
Yeah, I just don't see why they would make that up. They just don't seem like the type of people that would get off making something like this up. Now, is your area, I know there's other areas close to you that are considered very cavernous areas, a lot of underground aqueducts, a lot of underground caves. Is the area out there pretty cavernous as well, or not?
Well, oh yeah, we have a lot of underground caves. Missouri is known as the cave state.
That's right. Yeah. Okay.
Besides the show me state, there are a lot of caves. Most of the caves are in the southern half, but we do have a lot here in this area. In fact, there are a couple of very large complexes here that are underground caves where, the businesses go use them for storage, and there's huge semi-trucks going in and out constantly. And these things are huge. I mean, you could fly a plane into these things. But, whether they're some type of a UFO base here or not, I don't know. Mm. I know the Missouri River is very close. And, in fact, a lot of the UFOs have been seen over the river. And there's a lot of speculation as to why that may be, perhaps using water for fuel, burning hydrogen from it or something like that, or just maybe just needing water like we do.
Very
maybe
strange.
Also hiding in the river. We've got lakes around here. There is some speculation that Blue Springs Lake and Lake Lotawana are being used as UFO bases underwater. You can easily hide a craft in those areas. They're deep enough to do that.
Wow. Well, Margie, I wanted to ask you a question going back to your first appearance here at Topic UFO with the Blue Springs UFO flap. You may remember that the local CBS affiliate actually sent out a reporter and cameraman out to the neighborhood that had originally reported this object, and they caught the object on camera, got it on tape.
Yes.
And 2 days later, I think, that reporter did a follow-up story, basically telling people that, things were still happening, but nothing's been confirmed yet. And then all of a sudden, it just went completely silent. And the gentleman that was the witness and who had contacted that station, he tried calling back, getting in touch with the reporter, was having a very hard time, couldn't get through to him. Finally, he got through to him, and the reporter simply stated, "This is no longer a pertinent story. We will no longer be covering it. Goodbye." Click. And that was the last they ever heard.
That's right.
Did you hear anything else after all that?
Oh, yes. I was interviewed a third time by that same reporter, and after he heard what I had to say, he went back to his station manager and he said, "Listen, this is not over. We need to keep covering this." The station manager said, "I'm sorry. I've been told from higher up, the story's over. We're not covering it anymore." And that was the end of it. And this reporter was recently transferred to another city. I don't know if this had anything to do with it, but he did have an interest in the subject after he had his own experience. Obviously, he saw something he couldn't explain, and he really got interested in it. Prior to this, he did not ever have a UFO experience. He had never seen one. He didn't believe they existed. He just thought he was going out to do another Lights in the Sky story. And when he saw what he saw with an object shooting across the sky and red and white laser beam like lights being shot across the sky, and then the object going back to where it was originally, his camerawoman jumped in the van, and when they left, she refused to go back with him the next night.
Is that right?
She was scared to death. Yeah, and we saw things. I saw things that night I could not believe.
I remember that. I think you were driving home or something, and you were driving by a park or something like that, and you saw something?
I stopped in the park and I saw it, and then a week later, or just not even a week, I went back out with several other people, and I took my high-powered binoculars with me once again, and I saw that object. It looked like it was right over Lake City Army ammo plant, and it was the same object. It's a bright light flashing multiple colors, usually red, white, and blue, sometimes red, white, green. And it's very large. It's larger than Venus. Looks like it's close. If you weren't really paying attention to it, you would just think it was a star or a planet. And most people, honestly, are not looking up and not paying attention to things.
Right.
But if you watch it for a minute, you realize this thing is out of place. Doesn't look right. Well, the thing about that light is, and sometimes there's more than one in the sky. Sometimes there's one or two or three. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
It has been appearing ever since. It has appeared in Independence, Kansas City, Blue Springs, and Lee Summit.
Wow.
People have continued to see it. I've seen it at least 16 times myself.
Jeez. Unbelievable stuff. Just, you're very lucky to be in a state with so much. I don't know if that's lucky, but it sounds lucky to me.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting. I mean, I love the subject. It's interesting, but it gets to a point where it consumes your life.
Yes. Yeah.
And now we're having another flap. We've got a major case here in Independence that's right on the border with Sugar Creek, far east Independence once again. And that one is headed up by Gene Walker, and also Larry Jordan is helping out with this one. We went out there, and within 10 minutes, we are all seeing a UFO, something we could not explain. And also, after that, I mean, it was large, bright white light. I looked at it through my night vision, and I see this rolling ball of plasma. There's no navigation lights on it. There's no wings or tail, or there's no craft of any sort. It's just this rolling ball of plasma, this large white light. And then it disappeared. It just faded and disappeared. And we all saw this. 5 of us saw it. Well, we also saw throughout the 2 hours we were out there, lights would blink on in the sky and then just go out. And there were no clouds. And sometimes they would blink on twice in the same spot and go out and never come back on again. Well, this lady, since we were there, she started seeing things on July the 27th. They have lived in this house 4 years. It's the first time she's seen anything out there. Okay? 2 days ago, they had a large craft in a cylindrical shape fly right over their house, 100 feet over their house, and shine down on the yard and light up the yard and the field. And then this sparkly stuff flew down or came down out of the craft onto her trees.
Oh, a repeat of...
Yes.
What's her name? The blonde lady? I can never remember her name.
Yeah. It's been on television several times.
Yep.
A repeat of that one. So guess where I'm going tomorrow night? The 3 of us are going back out. We're going to get samples from the tree. Jean is the science teacher. She's got a background in science. She's going to be collecting the evidence. I'm going to have my night vision on, and it'll be recording. I've got the iGen 2020 monocular, which is a long range night vision. It's not the real high end, generation 3 or 4, but it does the job. It's really good, and I'm going to have that recording the whole time. We're also going to have some other cameras up, night vision still cameras. Here's the killer, though, too. We all took photos, and when we blew the photos up, there are some amazing things in them, and these are in the yard. There are bright white lights with multiple colors around them. Some of them look like they're objects in different shapes, and a couple of them, I swear, Rick, they'll look like there's ETs in them.
Wow. I tell you, it's getting a little scary out there, Margie.
It is. It's crazy. I like this stuff, but it just, it's all consuming sometimes.
Yeah, a little too close for comfort, maybe, too. Well, listen, Margie, we're getting down on time here, and I wanted to ask, where can people kind of keep up on what's going on out there in Missouri? You've got a website, right?
Oh, yeah. Well, the Missouri MUFON site is MissouriMUFON.org. My website is margiek.com. And then I have my Unex News magazine site, which is unexnews.com.
Excellent. And I was looking on the Missouri MUFON website, and there were a couple of things that I wanted to ask you about. You guys have a Kansas City area ET Experiencers group.
Right.
It's not affiliated with any UFO association, it says, but it meets on the fourth Tuesday of every month, 6:30 p.m. to 8:30 p.m. local time. How has that been going on for a while, and do you get a good crowd?
It's been going on for 5 years.
Wow.
Actually, I approached Megan Monroe about it. She's a licensed therapist. She has an interest in the subject, even though she's never had an experience herself. And she is just an excellent facilitator of the group. She screens everybody first before she lets them in the group so that everybody can feel safe, talking amongst themselves. It's not really therapy, but it's a safe place where you can talk about things.
Right.
People who have had real encounters with extraterrestrials. And the group is growing. It's The people in it just love it. They love to go because they feel comfortable, and instead of a larger setting where people might have an interest in UFOs, but they can't really understand what it's like to actually be an ET experiencer.
That's kind of me. I have no problem believing in UFOs, but when you talk about abduction, it's just that whole next level that's very hard to deal with.
It is a next level, and but if people in the greater Kansas City area want to contact Megan through the MissouriMUFON.org website, that's how you do it. You just call her.
Okay, excellent. Well, I had one of our viewers, I believe down in Texas, contacted me this morning actually, and was saying that he and his wife are planning to join MUFON next month or October, I believe he said. And then he was going to go ahead and, go through the process to become an investigator. So I was going to ask you, Margie, for somebody that is thinking about becoming involved with MUFON or becoming a MUFON investigator, any words of wisdom you could give to newbies out there?
Sure. It's fun to do if you have an interest in it. If you've had experiences yourself, it's better because you can relate to what the people are talking about. There's a process that you need to go through, and that is, read the manual, take the test, become an investigator, and then you'll be going out and getting training from, your state director or assistant director or chief investigator, somebody. Most of the work, honestly, is on the phone or email, and you're talking to witnesses and taking the information. Occasionally, you get a good case where there's a landing or it's a close encounter, there's physical evidence, and that's when it gets really interesting.
Right.
The thing is, it's all volunteer, and you've got to buy your own equipment, you've got to pay your own travel expenses, and you've got to have time to do it. So if you can't make a commitment to those things, maybe you could do something else to help out. State directors are always needing help with research or whatever. That's another avenue too.
Excellent. Well, thank you for that. Well, Margie, once again, thank you so much for coming back now for your second time on Topic UFO. The way things are going, I feel pretty comfortable that there may be a third in the not too distant future if things keep going the way they are.
Well, I tell you what, we all feel like something big is on the horizon. So, who knows? Maybe they're going to land on the White House lawn.
You got it. Well, listen, you be safe out there, and we'll be looking for updates from you if something just completely outrageous comes your way.
Okay, well, thanks, Rick.
Okay, good night, Margie.
Good night.
Good night, everyone.